for Tuesday, September the 7th, 2021 to order at this time. It is now 8:02 p.m. First and foremost, I would like to ask everyone to please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, as a formality, would you confirm that we do have a quorum? I think anyone looking can see that.
Good evening, everyone. Yes, we do have a full quorum today. We have 5 of you present, and Mayor Pro Tem Adrian Boffo and Council Member Ndebu Malo are joining us virtual.
All right, thank you so very much. I would first like to say thank you for all of the citizens who have joined us this evening. We appreciate you coming out, and it's always good when we have an opportunity as we've come through this pandemic to see people in person. So again, thank you so very much for being here. We just ask that everybody make sure you keep yourselves safe, because that's the main thing we need to do. All right, having said that, are there any agenda additions, deletions, or amendments at this time?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. If I may ask to amend the agenda tonight so that we have a resident, Mike Gorman, who could present a presentation on the history of Buoy, ice and Buoy.
I think at this time with the agenda, I think it would be good if he signed up and be able to have the typical 3 to 5 minutes to speak. And then if it's a formal presentation he'd like to do, that we schedule that, if not for next meeting, but the meeting after that, so he could do that presentation.
Okay, and I hear you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for that. Mr. Gorman, a resident of Bowie, asked if we could hear his presentation on the history of ice. He said that the presentation would only take about 15 minutes in length.
Mr. Mayor, I apologize. I could be wrong, but I think that usually if there's a document presentation attached to a formal presentation we're receiving, I think we typically have to publish that in advance of the meeting and put that as a formal agenda item. I could be wrong about that. I don't know if staff has any input on that, but typically if someone has a presentation associated with something they're going to formally give us, we have to put that on an agenda and announce it in advance.
Okay,
I think that's the case.
Point of clarification from our city clerk. Do we typically, presentations, I believe we do have to have them. Is that correct?
That is the best format. It is to have it presented ahead of time so the residents do have a chance to see it prior to just being presented tonight at the meeting.
Okay, would you still like to speak, if he would, or just wait? I think that's, I'm turning to you, Councilman.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You were doing
that. Mr. Gorman, well, I'm sorry, City Clerk, the City Clerk says that we would have to formally, following Councilmember Esteves' advice, that we would have to formally, pardon me, City Clerk, if you would explain what you were saying. I don't want to go offline here.
Our City Attorney, Ms. Levan's on the line. If Ms. Levan would like to clarify it, or, I mean, council could make the motion if you have the majority votes to amend the agenda. But I would pass it on to our City Attorney.
Thank you, City Clerk.
So with a formal presentation, as it sounds like Mr. Gorman wants to promote, that would be a substantive change to the agenda, and the Open Meetings Act requires you to post your agenda 24 hours in advance. While it doesn't forbid you from amending it as necessary to conduct public business, the better practice in this case would be to put it on a formal agenda at a future meeting.
Thank you. Thank you, City Attorney.
Thank you, City Attorney. Okay. Mr. Gorman says that's okay. Thank you, thank you. Thank
Okay.
you, council. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
At this time, any other, hearing none, I will move on to, did someone say something?
Mr. Mayor. Hi, this is, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to remove, hold on one second. Which one is it? I'm just looking at it. I'd like to move item C under the consent agenda and put it, under old business and move it for discussion, but not during this council hearing, for the next council hearing.
Okay, so city clerk, do you have that? What?
So we
Okay.
just remove consent agenda item to the September 20th meeting?
Yeah, under
Yes.
old business, yeah, the item C.
All right. Okay. All right, thank you very much. Hearing no further additions, deletions, or amendments, I'd like to now move to citizen participation. Madam City Clerk?
And Mayor, just for the record, we did receive 22 comments for this evening via email, so they are being added as part of the record for tonight's meeting. And then we do have several that have signed up to speak.
All right, thank you. On the citizens' participation, please come up, state your name and your address. The first person on the list is Mr. Michael Gorman. Yes.
Okay. This is not the 55 slide deck,
Okay.
okay? You all have the 55 slide deck.
Mr.
This is
Gorman,
one slide.
Mr. Gorman, if you could, why don't you
Oh.
lift the mic up a little bit so everybody in the back can hear as well?
Okay, there you go.
Thank you.
Okay. Basically, this is a half a dozen slides from the subset, and I'd like to basically go over it. And the first thing I'd like to just run it through as quickly as I can. We're going to talk about the public services uses for ICE, and you've seen pictures of that before, wounded warriors and so on and so forth, et cetera. They use the ICE. Then, of course, there's youth hockey. And there's youth instructional hockey, freestyle teams we have, and then, of course, we have public sessions. But invariably, every single season, by the time we go through that list, a vast number of people, I can't tell you whether it's 10 million or 5, okay, call and say, do you have ice time? And the answer is no, okay? And that basically then eliminates all public, oh, I spelled that wrong. Oh, my God, did I spell that wrong? Okay, and private school teams, I'll fix that, okay? And then men and women's hockey teams, okay? So what I did was I examined all of the requirements for ICE across all of the possible uses of ICE and basically came up with a total demand of 5,168 hours of total ICE demand that would serve people who live in Bowie, whether they go to school at DeMatha or Holy Trinity or Riverdale Baptist, whatever, or Bowie State or whatever. Those teams have all been clearly identified and described in your 55-page enhancement. How's that? One sheet of ice can only handle 2856 hours. So you divide the two, and you need 1.8 sheets of ice. And that is something that the prior city council struggled over for years, and that's why we got to, Church Road. Okay, the alternatives based upon the study Yeah, okay. The alternatives based upon this study basically were, one, we complete Church Road. The second one is we construct a brand-new ice rink. And the third one is a refurbish Allen's Pond ice rink. When I computed the cost of each one of these things, I had to assume that all the ice that was available to be sold would be sold. In which case, then, there's no need for a City of Bowie subsidy for the Church Road ice rink. In fact, there's an excess of about $450,000 over monies collected. So, in order to compute the cost of that, I hope that's not my phone. That's your phone. Very good. Okay. Sounded like my phone. All right. We have the existing expenditure of $9 million plus a $2 million penalty to restart, figuring out if somebody's got to read everything and stuff like that, plus the $18 million to complete the thing. So it would come to $29 million. Okay. And that would cover about 111% of the demand. So there's excess ice with 2 sheets. Okay. The second one is to construct a brand new ice rink. And that would have to incur the existing $250,000 subsidy that the city does to the ice rink every year. So over 30 years, that's $10 million. When I talked to my CPA accountant and a retired sea officer from Fidelity Financial and a government official who signed these things over and over and over again, this new ice rink has as part of its cost the cost of Church Road that's already been spent. So at that point, I guesstimated that the cost of a brand new sheet of ice would be $15 million. That's turned out to be false. Okay. But at that point, it was then $42 million. This does not include debt service. And so that would only give us 55% of the use for approximately $13 million more cost. Okay. The third alternative is the one that the study was all about, is basic Allen Pond refurbishment, and it turns out that that's $54 million when you add the Church Road price to it, and that still only gives you 55% of the use. So instead of paying 29, is that mine? I think it is. Well, that's sure. Okay, instead of paying 29, you pay 54, and instead of getting 111%, you get 55%. Now, as I indicated, the cost of the second sheet of ice is wrong, okay? Of the new sheet ice rink is wrong. My wife got a newsletter yesterday, I think it was, that said we should really pick the cost of one of the ice sheets that was in the study document. Okay. So I looked at that and I got a little bit suspicious because 30 years ago, my son's college, not that he owns a college, but the college he was going to, they put in a brand new single sheet of ice and it cost $10 million. That's 30 years ago. Okay. I then decided to see if I could get current prices for a current ice rink. And I got a current ice rink, which is Tucker Road. And I got a letter today from Don Herring, who's a senior planner to Maryland National Capital Parks and Planning Commission. And the cost of Tucker Road was $28,329,000. So the bottom line, I promise I'll finish as soon as I can. The bottom line of the whole thing is Church Road completion is 69% of the cost of a new single sheet. And that's actually wrong. It's actually a lot more than that. Or it's a lot less because the new sheet, the brand new ice rink, really costs the same as refurbishing Allen's Pond. And you only get half the use of it. And that's basically how it goes through. And the Church Road completion revenue is expected to exceed its operating cost by about $455,000, where the new sheet ice rink and or Allen's Pond requires $250,000 every single year to keep it operating. So that's basically the points I'm making. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you.
Okay? Okay.
All right. Next up, Abby Snyder.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. For the record, Abby Snyder. I live in District 1. I don't feel comfortable saying my street address.
Okay.
I'd like to start by saying Shana Tova to our Jewish residents who are likely not in this room because I just left dinner with my family because I'm observing a holiday right now. But, you know, we put the most controversial topic in the city of Bowie on the agenda during a holiday. Okay. I'm here to say what I'm sure you're anticipating you're going to hear a million times tonight. We told you so. I'm assuming you are the lovely men who did the study for us, who are here to thank you for your hard work. Let's just do a little homework here. We, you know, a few years ago, more than a few years ago, we stood up here and we told you that we needed a new ice facility. We were told that it would just be a few million more dollars if we built a new one that had 2 sheets of ice, and then we would be able to make up all of the costs, and it would break even, and it would be the first recreational facility in the city of Bowie that breaks even instead of costing the city money. We moved forward with that begrudgingly, as you all know, and you could say that a little bit of grace was deserved for the mayor and the new council members who didn't really want to do their research when this topic was brought up last May, and the project was already underway, and millions of dollars had already been spent. But, you know, we decided just to keep on trucking on a vote to cancel the entire thing and waste millions of taxpayer dollars. Fast forward to now, we have a dilapidating building that while I was working summer camp this summer, one thunderstorm came through and we lost the AC unit in the lobby when parents were coming for a show. Our building is falling apart. You put together a task force of residents to assess the situation and see what needed to be fixed. They gave you conclusions and you didn't like them. So you spent more taxpayer dollars to have these lovely gentlemen come use their expertise to review it to come to the same conclusion. We've all seen what they've done. I can't wait to look at their presentation later. And I can't wait to see what decision you guys are finally going to make to move forward with this. You all promised that there would be ice in Bowie, and we're all still counting on you to do that. But at what cost? It's time to make a decision to stop dragging it out longer, wasting more and more taxpayer money every time that you do it. Thank you for your time. Thank you for finally considering this, and hopefully we finally make a decision tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. Next up, I believe it's Ms. Lila Young. Good evening.
Mr. Mayor, honorable members of the City Council, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Lina Yunus. I've been a Bowie resident, taxpayer, voter for nearly 27 years. I am a proud mother of a Bowie ISI skater. I know it sounds cliche, but coming here today, watching many of my friends in this very room, speaking and reiterating emphatically once again the need for the city of Bowie to invest in the skating community, all this seems like another chapter of Groundhog Day. For years, we have seen the effects of the councils in action. For years, we have watched a 2-step dance. One move 1 step forward, 2 steps back. How many times has the council requested studies, assessments, evaluations, reviews on the condition of the Bowie Ice Arena? How many times has various entities reviewed the physical conditions of the facility, the structure, the electrical conditions, the architecture, the refrigeration, the mold, and so on? All these entities basically have issued similar reports, recommending investing in the construction of a new ice skating facility instead of trying to breathe new life into the dilapidated existing venue. And in 2019, we came so close. And in 2020, we all know what the council did. And so now it's 2021, and we are here again. Paraphrasing the British phrase, please don't be penny wise, but pound foolish, again. Please don't be penny wise and dollar foolish, again. I implore you to invest in the construction of a new facility for the ice skating community that will undoubtedly generate revenue for the city of Bowie and serve as a venue for lifelong friendships and developing sportsmanship where a new generation of Bowie ice skaters and hockey players may thrive. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, we have Aidan Gunn. Aidan, if you could, please keep your mask on.
Oh, okay.
No problem. Thank you, Aidan.
Of course. Hi, everyone. My name is Aidan Gunn. I'm a hockey player and a Bowie resident. I'm also a member of the Bowie Youth Council as a direct result of this ice rink debacle. I've done this before. I've spoken to the council, the news, professional athletes, and I even tried to go over your head to the governor. I've told all of you countless times how much your decisions on this topic affect me, my family, my friends, my hockey and figure skating community, and the city as a whole. But tonight, I'm not going to tell you anything. I'm here to ask questions. I'd like to know how we got here. I would like to know how we are sitting in this room tonight reading an absolutely alarming report describing how it will take $28 million and 3 summers to make the current rink where my family spends upwards of 10 hours a week safe for us to be in. How did we already spend millions of dollars on a new, safe, sustainable, and very profitable 2-sheet ice facility only to let it rot? I've done my research. I now work with this council, and I keep up to date on news of this project. Even after that exposure, your decisions don't make any sense to me. What Bowie residents are benefiting from your decisions? Wasn't the reasoning for scrapping this project to build basketball courts? Have basketball players benefited? Did we get those courts? Your funding comes from residents, meaning your indecisiveness is costing them millions. I've tried analyzing this from every angle, and I can't see any individual who's being helped right now. Obviously, the current rink needs desperate help, and it's your job to keep us safe. We need you to stand by your commitment to keep ice in Bowie and continue the 50-year tradition of youth ice sports that is integral to Bowie's history and future. But again, how did we get here, and how are these our current choices? The handling of this situation has been a train wreck for years. It's full of broken promises and wasted money. The hockey and figure skating community have done their parts, and us kids have done our part. So my last question is, what are you, as members of the council, going to do to fix this? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Josh Baltimore. Good evening, Josh.
2506 Afton Street. Mayor Adams and members of the Bowie City Council, good evening. My name is Joshua Baltimore, and I am honored to have this opportunity to speak to you tonight about a subject that is near and dear to my heart, the Bowie Ice Arena. I am 8 years old, and I will soon turn 9, and despite the years of pain and suffering, I was born a Caps fan. In fact, my daddy took me to my first game when I was just 4 months old, and it was love at first sight. As I began to grow, I couldn't wait to be able to get on the ice and do all the things I saw my favorite Caps doing. So when I turned 5 and my time came, my daddy enrolled me in the Caps Learn to Play program through the Bowie Hockey Club. After taking my bumps, I came back the following year and played 8U Rec. Then last year, I made travel and played on 8U Black. This year, I graduated to 10U and was selected to be the starting goalie for 10U Black. I don't share success to brag on myself, but rather on the coaches. At Bowie Hockey, who took an undersized mite that was shy and lacked skill and confidence, and over the course of just a few short years, developed my skills, taught me sportsmanship and how to work with others. But perhaps most importantly, they taught me work ethic, and proved to me that you can do anything in life if you're willing to put in the hard work. And these are the very lessons that will provide success through my entire life. And while probably not the most people's, not on the, and while probably not on most people radar, Bowie hockey has been a great melting pot of diversity in my young life. But none of it would have been possible without the Bowie Ice Arena and the amazing staff somehow managed to keep things running despite the challenges inherent to a 50-year-old building. And so I implore you not to give up on us, but instead make the necessary investment required to keep ice in Bowie, not only for my peers and I, but for future generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Kevon Woodard.
My name is Kevon. Sounds like this. And I really love playing hockey, and I like playing with my teammates and playing on a safe ice. And having access and being a part of the team. And I think we should use the investment so we can keep playing and everything. And we can keep going. And I want to keep playing hockey with my team. I've been playing since I was 4. And I want to keep playing into the future. I want a chance to keep having fun along with my team. And keep having opportunities. And for our good team.
Thank you, Kevon. Next, we have Evan Dove.
Hello. I was just asked to speak tonight, and I have not written anything down. My name is Evan Dove, and I have been playing at Buoy for 4 years. And sorry,
Take your time.
I'm having trouble thinking stuff. Buoy has been there for 50 years, and yeah, I don't know what to say.
It's okay. Take your time. Is that your dad with you?
Yes, yes it is.
Dad, you want to step up and help out a little bit? Feel free.
And I enjoy playing hockey very much, and I've made lots of friends, and I'm looking forward to a new year of playing hockey, and that's all I have to say tonight.
Yeah, all right.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for stepping up. Next, we have Joshua Dixon.
Hello, my name is Joshua Dixon. I'm in 5th grade. Some of the sports that I like to play are baseball, basketball, and I like to swim. And I also play hockey. I play on the Bowie Hockey 10U Gold team. I like the community. The kids are very fun and kind, and the coaches are very fun to work with. So some of the reasons why I like hockey, because it has a lot of skills. Some of the skills are teamwork, stick handling, and skating. And the game is very fun, so those are some of the reasons that you should continue funding Bowie Ice Arena.
Thank you. And next up, I think it's Dina Mobley.
Good evening. My name
Good
is
evening.
Dina Mobley, and I'm here tonight as a hockey grandma. My son learned to skate at Buoy, and he played hockey for Buoy through middle school and high school, and he did very well. He made a traveling team, and we really enjoyed his time in hockey. Now I have a grandson who's 11, and he started playing hockey here when he was about 3 years old. My son now coaches here at Bowie, and hockey, as you can probably tell, is a huge part of our life. If Bowie were to close the rink, it would leave a huge, huge void in many of the lives in this area. And I'm just going to ask you to put yourselves into the skates of the kids at Bowie. How would you feel if someone decided the rink was no longer needed? Or better yet, pick your favorite activity and just imagine if it was decided that activity would stop. A little hard to take, right? Well, that's how these kids are going to feel if there's no hockey here. I encourage you to consider the ice rink as a positive element in the lives of the children, the youth, and the adults who play and perform there. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Wonderland Vargas and Afton Sylvester.
Good evening, council members. I understand that there is a lot of people who are here in support of the hockey rink, and I do wish you well with your intent to keep it here in Bowie. I'm just going to make a shift in the topic, and it's pertaining to a matter regarding a tree. I did provide information to several members of the council regarding the assistance that we're seeking, because we have been notified of an issue pertaining to a tree that happens to fall on our property, but it is adjacent to a public sidewalk. That tree, along with other trees in our neighborhood, apparently were identified, we were told, in a survey, and the trees around us were removed. They were taken down by a City of Bowie contract. I was told that the reason that those trees were taken down at the city's expense was because their tree is within a certain distance to what is considered a public right-of-way. And the only public right-of-way that is being deemed bona fide is a road or a street. We do have a public sidewalk that is utilized by pedestrians on a daily basis, day and night, walking dogs, babies, and just for exercise. And we want to see that the tree matter is resolved. We just ask that we, as residents and taxpayers of the City of Bowie, get the same benefit of having that tree removed. Because if there are limbs that are now considered to be unhealthy, and the tree is maybe going through changes because it is a mature tree, it's been there since the house was built, we're just asking to have that tree also considered because of the sidewalk that it is adjoining, and it provided shade to for over 5 decades. We have got an extension currently to kind of offset the fines that we are to be cited daily of $100. My husband, he was not able to come tonight because he can't wear a mask for extended periods of time, and we are not in a physical shape or financial shape to address the issue. So we're just asking to have that same service extended to the tree because of the sidewalk that it does involve, which is a public right-of-way, according to the definition that I see in many legal references.
Okay.
At this point, I'm going to allow my daughter to speak and to chime in because she resided with us for almost 20 years until she got married, and she's moved into her own home. But she can also chime in about the matter.
Good evening. My name is Afton Sylvester, and I'm here on behalf of my mom and dad. I am a licensed environmental health specialist with the state of Maryland, and my parents informed me of the notice of violation that was brought against their property. After looking up the recent amendments to the property maintenance codes for the city of Bowie, I found Chapter 22, Streets and Sidewalks, that states, trees, tree branches, and shrubbery are to be trimmed to provide a clearance of 9 feet above a public sidewalk and 14 feet above the street pavement. A tree on private property in imminent danger to city property or the public right-of-way may be declared a public nuisance and be trimmed or removed by the city after notification to the property owner. I may have missed it, but I did not see anywhere in the city code that specifically defines what the public right-of-way is. Like, does it not include sidewalks? I did not see that specifically mentioned in the code. Another thing that I noticed was that in their letter, the violation description says that there are dead limbs on a tree in the front yard. And we were able to meet with the code compliance officer, Mr. John Rogers. And while I was there, I asked him if he would show me the leaves. I'm about to wrap it up. Show me the specific branches because they had not been marked. And he was just pointing like Vanna White on not The Price is Right, Wheel of Fortune. And I'm like, okay, so how are my parents as the homeowners supposed to remember all of those branches that you just pointed to if you didn't provide them with a picture circling which branches you're talking about that are in violation, or doing as you did to the tree across the street and marking them with a red mark so they know what you're talking about. So this matter is just, it confuses me as to why some people's trees are deemed okay to be taken care of by the city and my parents is just not. And so thank you for listening to us and have a good evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I think it wouldn't be inappropriate at this time. I think the city manager will take note of that action and see what resolution we may come to.
Well, Mr. Mayor, we've already looked at that thoroughly. The tree's simply on their property, and we are prohibited from working on private property. We've measured it completely, and the trees that were removed were in the public right-of-way, which is our responsibility. It's just not our responsibility to remove trees on our property.
Okay,
But
we'll talk a little bit. Understood.
Codes are simple.
We'll talk offline. All right, but thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next up, we have Lori Jones.
Mr. Mayor, I ask if you can allow the next person to speak, and then I'll go after her. I'm just waiting for some of our Bowie Hockey Club players who would like to attend and be here, and they should be here any minute.
No, we'll do that. We'll go to Lisa Couture.
Thank you.
All right. Good afternoon, council members. Good to see you again. Pardon my attire tonight. I was a softball mom. She's in uniform still. I asked my family, part of it, to stand up here with me today because that's what I want to talk about. The family that you're born into and the family that you choose. And I have a family and they're all behind me. Marsha Perry's here. I've known her. I'm 43 next month. We're not going to talk about that. But I've known her over 40 years. since I was a child. Every person in this room, I consider my family, because family's not always the ones you're born into, it's who you choose. These are the people that I spend countless hours a week with, because I have not just Valerie, who is an ISI and USF skater, and has skated with Bowie's name proudly on the front and back of her shirt across this country, to represent Bowie. Not to represent the Couture family or, oh, the St. Louis family. The St. Louis family, which is my maiden name, you all know it, I've been here before. We've been here since the beginning. My father coached over 30 years at Buoy. Now, my oldest son is not with me tonight because he started at Buoy, learned how to skate on that ice, played with these kids, and you know where he is now? He's playing for Team Maryland. It's a AAA Tier 1 team. And you know what? That is what these kids are trying to do. They're trying to learn a skill, build friendships and families, and become as much as they can possibly become. That opportunity to play for Team Maryland allows him to travel. His first time out the gate, he was offered an opportunity to play with an academy out of New Hampshire. He is not the first from Bowie, and you may not know that. There have been 5 from Bowie to end up in these northern academies, and this one specifically. But he's playing for Team Maryland this year. But he started at Bowie. Bowie is what hangs in his room. That's the jerseys he still wears. So he's not here tonight as my family, but I'm here for this family. Now, my youngest is 8 years old. You've already heard from his goalie. And he will be very proud to see that his goalie stood up for this team and this family. So as a family, whether we all live together or live under that rink, and we would all protect one another. And unfortunately, we have to think about that. We have to have a contingency plan. If I have to leave my child, who's there that if that ceiling comes down, who's going to protect my child? If my child starts coughing because of mold, who's going to help? I have no doubt any single person wearing green and yellow from the back in the days and red and black, every one of them would take my children and put them in a safe place. But unfortunately, that's what we have to think about. What happens if that ice just breaks? So we have to protect our family. And sometimes you have to say to family, look, you know what? We cannot afford that brand new car. We can't afford this or that. We have to make sacrifices. We've been through that. We did the research, we bought the car, we started building the car, and then we left the car to rot. So as a family, you make decisions. You're part of this family whether you want to be or not. You are. So you can't let your family down. You can't let them make promises. Yep, going to Disney World, just kidding. We're just going to rip up these plane tickets in front of you and move on. That's not how you treat friends. That's not how you treat family. That's not how you treat constituents. It can't be done. So I implore you, I have used every word under the sun in the last, 8 years we've been running this race. It is not about which is better. It is not about who's right and who's wrong. It's about you made a promise to a community, your family. You need to stick with it. You have to continue to support all these people. Case in point, people that are not in this room. Because my children play rather expensive sports, every single one of my children plays more than one. I said, well, I am no longer a stay-at-home mom this summer. And I went back to work because I will do that for my family. And boy, I can pick a crab really well now because I've been slinging crabs all summer, 50 plus hours a week, because that's what I will do for my family. And I had a table sit down. It was a table of 12, a whole family. And I'm checking IDs because they needed a drink. And every one of them was from Bowie. And I said, oh my gosh, I'm in Bowie almost every day. I just love being in Bowie. We got to talking. They had 6 children with them. And they said, wait a minute, you know how to ice skate? I said, yeah, I compete. I said, yep, me. And I said, my kids do. By the end of that dinner in this restaurant, which is in Anne Arundel County, but they had come out there. I had shown them videos of my children and myself skating, and I said, you know, you can do this too. And they said, what do you mean? I said, well, there's lessons going on right now, summer camp. And then you've got hockey camp, and you can learn how to skate with the Learn to Skate program. And they were like, really? I said, absolutely. I said, here is my home phone number. Here's my cell phone. You have mom call me. I, of course, gave it to mom. Those children hugged me, thanked me for the information, and said, I'll see you at the rink. They were not skaters. They weren't part of the family yet. But you know what? They are now. And that's how it happens. That's how it happens. And those children that hugged me and thanked me for that opportunity, I'll be the same one there tying their skates, because I will do it 7 days a week. This is important. And even if you haven't been there, done that, and understand this family, you're part of it, come join us. Figure it out, because you got to not break a promise to this family. Thank you.
Next up, Ms. Lori Jones. You ready now? Okay.
I'd like to ask all the Bowie Hockey Club players and coaches to join me. Is that okay?
Sure.
Come up, if everyone, coaches. Where's Logan? This is Bowie Hockey Club. This is just a very small sampling of the club. We have well over 300 members. Unfortunately, some of them couldn't be here tonight because they start school tomorrow, and the parents weren't comfortable bringing them out tonight. Good evening. My name is Lori Jones, and I'm the president of Bowie Hockey Club. This year, Bowie Hockey Club and the Bowie Ice Arena are celebrating our 50th anniversary. 50 years. I've stood here many times before you requesting you keep ice in Bowie, and I stand here again making the same request. However, the request now is an urgent plea to not delay and commit to ice in the community for the next generation. Please keep your promises and continue to support ice in the city of Bowie. Do not delay. Prices will only increase, and the current facility is failing. Bowie Hockey Club uses most of the ice at the Bowie Ice Arena, and this season we had to purchase additional ice at the new Tucker Road facility to meet our needs. I have to also take a few moments to thank the Bowie Ice Arena staff. The rink stayed open during the pandemic. When they opened last July, they stayed open all the way through until the end of April. Carrie Robertson, the rink manager, the assistant managers, Randy Richardson, Derek Raybold, Joe Connolly, Tom Windsor, and Christine Britton, they worked their tails off to keep that rink safe, clean, so that our kids could come in and play hockey, which never shut down through the pandemic. We played an entire season, one of the very few sports that was able to do that. They do a great job taking care of that facility and the users, and we thank them. Please keep ice in Bowie and reconfirm your commitment to the community, please. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Logan Dougal. I am 12 years old, and I play on the Bowie AA Pee Wee national team. I am here because I am proud of representing Bowie all over the United States. My hope is that our team will start a tradition of national level hockey teams at Bowie, and I hope my younger brothers play on those teams. But to play at this level, we need to have the ice time to practice and compete. Due to the lack of ice time at Bowie Ice Arena, I and many of my teammates get up early before school to practice or have to go to the rink at Tucker Road for late night practices.
For me, my teammates, and all future kids in Bowie, please reconsider your decision to stop the project on Church Road to build a new ice facility. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, everyone, for your participation.
Thank you.
At this time, we will be moving on to presentations. And the proclamation.
Thank you very much.
Should we come down to the floor, Henri? Let's go down, gentlemen.
I want to start by thanking all of the young people tonight for coming out and the parents and adults that guided them and supported them along the way. I think that you young people are very courageous and speaking up for what you want. You have to start someplace, and this is something that I see that each of you are passionate about. Thank you for coming out tonight. Secondly, I'd like to ask Jose Lloyd to come forward of Bruster's Ice Cream of Buoy. Bruster's Ice Cream of Buoy. And I understand, I see you have some staff back there too. Come on, young people. We love young people. This council, we love young people. We love them all. Come forward. Yes, we do. Yes, not to mention the ice cream. Come forward. Right here. Thank you. Thank you. Well, I want to start by saying also that I'm a big fan of ice cream. I'm from the South, and we love ice cream down South. But I wanted to share with you a story. Jose, if you would step forward, manager. Or if you haven't had Bruster's ice cream, it is very good, and it's just revitalized the entire Buoy Town Center. I mean, so many people are there. There are long lines. And one evening in particular, I was there, and you know, we're in a pandemic right now, and tempers seem to be flared really high. But these young people maintained a level of professionalism and orderly and getting the job done, getting customers in and delivering them the cold, fantastic, delicious ice cream from Bruster's. And having conversation with their manager, Jose here, he explained to me that many of the young people, this is their first job, their very first job, their summer job. Everyone here, every adult here in this room can remember their very first job, either fondly or with some negative memories. My experience personally was rather fond, and I always look back at that. And instilling a work ethic into young people and understanding that customer service is utmost importance. And I just wanted to, on behalf of the Bowie City Council and the Mayor of Bowie, along with Councilwoman Ingrid Harrison, we wanted to present you people tonight, you fine people, with a proclamation from the City of Bowie, Maryland, of the Council of the City of Bowie, Maryland, recognizing Bruster's Ice Cream, whereas June 2021 marked the first anniversary of Bruster's in ice cream and opening in Bowie, Maryland. Whereas despite the COVID pandemic, Bruster's Ice Cream opened their new location in the Bowie Town Center and continued to steadily do great business. And whereas Bruster's Ice Cream is giving back to the community by providing first-time jobs to many of its young people in the Bowie community. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the Council of the City of Bowie, Maryland, hereby recognizes Bruster's Ice Cream for their presence and service to the Bowie community, presented by the Council of the City of Bowie, Maryland, on September 7, 2021, by the City Council, Adrian Brothel, Mayor Pro Tem, Councilmember Michael Esteve, Councilmember Henri Gardner, myself, Councilwoman Ingrid Harrison, Councilwoman Roxy Ndevamadu, Councilwoman Dufour Wolfrey, and our mayor, Timothy J. Adams. Thank you so very much for all the fine work that you do for our community. Thank you. Come over this side. We'd like to get some pictures with you.
I would like to say, along with what Councilman said earlier, I would really like to echo that, because I think what we've seen, not only with our young men and women with hockey, but also with our young men and women who are here at Bruster celebrating their first jobs and all, that we as a city are so fortunate to have the young people and the parents and the people that support them here. So again, to Brewsters, congratulations. Thank you for picking Buoy, and we appreciate keeping you here. And again, thank you all for being here this evening as well. We will move on to city boards and committees. Committee appointments and swearing in. Mr. Robert Kellaway was interviewed on August 2nd for appointment to the Green Team Executive Committee. The council concurred to appoint him to the committee as a regular member for a 2-year term. I would please ask that we move to appoint him.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
And seconded.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Good evening, Mr. Kellaway. I would like to do the swearing in at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And please, council members,
Yes,
if you'd like to
yes.
come a little closer as
Yes.
we do the swearing in. Would you please?
We don't stand on there each other.
Yeah. Raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Robert Kellaway,
Do swear or affirm
do swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
and that I will be faithful
and I will be faithful
and bear true allegiance
and bear true allegiance
to the state of Maryland
to the state of Maryland,
and support the Constitution and laws thereof,
and support the Constitution and laws thereof,
and that I will,
and that I will,
to the best of my skill and judgment,
to the best of my skill and judgment,
diligently and faithfully,
diligently and faithfully,
without partiality or prejudice,
without partiality or prejudice,
execute the office of regular member of the
execute the office of the subgroup of energy and greenhouse gas for the Buoy Green Team.
That's right.
Close enough?
According to the Constitution
According to the Constitution
and the laws of this state.
and the laws of this state.
Congratulations and welcome. Thank you. Please, Mr. Kellaway. Mr. Kellaway, please, we have your... This is a certificate of appointment to Robert Kellaway, who is hereby appointed as a member of the Green Team Executive Committee by the City Council on September 7, 2021. Timothy J. Adams, Mayor, and of course, the city council as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. The compensation package is fantastic.
At this point, we will move to city council announcements. And I would like to make an announcement for everyone to know that on September 11th, the city will be having a memorial moment of silence at 8:46 a.m. on September the 11th. And we ask that you can join with us with that. But we're also having a day of service, and we will be here by the city gym, and we're asking that you come out and for the kids to come out and enjoy. There'll be games and things to do. We'll do everything to be conscious of keeping everybody safe. There'll be sign-up sheets for people for things you may want to do or volunteer for on that day as well. And so we ask that you go to the website and please look at that, and I hope that we see you on September 11th. Having said that, any other announcements?
I got one, Mr. Mayor, and I'll thank Karen Wolfley for doing all my thinking for me. Just want to remind everybody about the Old Bowie Celebrates Festival on Saturday, September the 18th from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. There will be live music on not one, but 2 different stages. Art vendors, children's crafts and entertainments, electric train rides, food trucks for me, antiques, and a lot of history displays. There used to be a fall festival every year in Old Bowie. There's an Old Bowie committee that has started these again. They're run entirely by a group of volunteers who have been working very, very, very hard. I think they have like 35 food trucks, which is way more than we've ever had. I don't know how they're going to find space, but they will somehow. So please come out Saturday, September 18. All the information is at www.oldbowiecelebrates.us. There will be shuttle bus services offered from the northern Bowie Marketplace parking lot in case there's not enough parking in Old Bowie, and there'll be shuttles running continuously throughout the day. We look forward to seeing you all there.
Okay, any other? Hearing none? Oh, you do have one?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to just remind our residents here in the city of Bowie that now we are doing Bowie movie nights. The first movie that we had was just not this past Friday, but the Friday prior to, and the showing was The Lion King. So we do have a number of other movie nights that are coming to be ended and concluded the season with Hocus Pocus, which will be played at the Bel Air Mansion on Halloween. If you have any details or any questions, you can go to thecityofbowie.org on the website where you'll find all the information. Thank you. Thank you, staff, for doing that. I've gotten positive feedback on it. Thank you.
Any other announcements at this time? Yes, Councilwoman Harris.
Yes, I just want to remind our residents to please go to the website and sign up for Bowie Alerts. It's a very, very important program, and you get text messages or emails alerting you to anything happening. Could be an emergency situation. We get information on COVID numbers. But I'm on the Public Safety Committee and just wanted to share that they are stressing the importance of certainly having that, having residents to sign up for our Buoy alerts. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Any other council members? Hearing none, we will now move on to the city manager's report.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council and residents. At present, we're focusing on following the example of the City Council, which is 100% vaccinated. We're trying to get our employees 100%, and I'm happy to say that we're at the 93% mark and pushing forward, and to making sure everybody's healthy and protected from this virus, and not just those who have contact with residents, but those interacting with other people themselves, and nobody contaminates the other person. So we think we're going to reach that goal very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, City Manager. We will now move to the consent agenda. I will entertain a motion.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor, please determine an aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same favor. Hearing none, motion carries. We will now move to old business, and the first item is the Buoy Ice Arena. The 292 group has a presentation, I believe, this evening.
Yeah, Matt, go ahead and make your
City Manager, please, come ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Hey,
My
Matt.
name is Matt Reno. I'm a project manager with the Department of Community
Hey,
Services.
Matt, for everyone to hear too, could you bring that a little
Sure.
closer?
How's
I
that?
want to make sure everybody in the back
Yep,
can hear you.
excellent. So, good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Matt Reno. I'm a project manager with the Department of Community Services, and I was the project manager assigned to manage the Ice Arena study. Back in February, the city had solicited consulting services from firms with specific experience in ice arena, design, renovation, and construction. The 292 group, design group, was hired to conduct a conditions assessment report and then put together a phased renovation program along with the cost estimates that would be associated with that. Tom Betty, the lead project architect and partner with 292 group, is here with us tonight, and he's going to review with you the study that they had come up with. Tom?
Mayor, Council, glad to be here tonight and present our report. I'm just going to give you a big picture summary, and I don't think it's a shock to anyone, but the improvements are extensive. It's a 50-year-old building that's been asked to do a lot, and the cost of the improvements are high. Not uncommon in the ice arena world. One of the little facts I like to put out there is ice arenas tend to double in construction cost every 10 years. Okay, most buildings will take about 15 years. And it's because of the extensive mechanicals and insulation and all the other special things. So with that, the study process and what we looked at. So this wasn't a study where we're going to do a lot of demolition and really dig into things and tear it apart because it's an operating building. So we looked at the structure, we looked at electrical, mechanical, the architectural, refrigeration, energy things. I had a whole team here. I had structural engineers here, mechanical engineers, refrigeration engineers, electrical engineers to tour this. We did staff interviews. We had the preparation of a cost estimate that took some time to go through it and make sure we had things covered. And then we put together a proposed schedule and phasing approach. That was one of the requirements of our contract. And we did that, and it's kind of a fun process to go through. A little bit about 292 and the team we put together. Personally, I've designed well over 40 ice arenas. I'm working on 3 right now. We do these types of projects across the country. We're based out of Minneapolis, and our focus is your type of facility. So community ice arenas up to NHL facilities, but the training centers for NHL teams. So very much a public type rink, 3,000 seats and below. So that's kind of our niche, our little hot spot. B32 is the premier refrigeration engineer in the country. Quite frankly, I'll put him up against Scott Ward and his company against anyone in the world. They know it, and they're really good at it, and over 250 rink projects. Nelson Rudy and Associates, another partner of mine. We go back over 20, 25 years. They have the structural, mechanical, and electrical expertise specific to ice arenas, and they are a little different animal. With that, this group's been together for well over 20 years, doing assessments, doing studies for planning a new facility to brand new ground up facilities. So what we looked at, on the architectural side, accessibility is limited in the facility. I'm going to mention one thing. I said it earlier, it's a 50-year-old building. It's been asked to do a lot, and a lot of things have changed over time, right? Codes, accessibility, access to facilities, all that stuff. And I think we're all living through it with COVID, the importance for good mechanical systems and so on. And those changes have really hit assembly occupancy, so ice arenas, basketball courts, swimming pools, those types of things. They were kind of on the forefront of getting that stuff right. So we looked at a lot of that. We looked at the roofing system, water infiltration, thermal slabs, thermal transfer at floor slabs, insulation systems or lack thereof in areas, water damage through visual inspection, non-compliant construction. There's a little bit in the facility. Locker rooms are somewhat outdated. Things have just changed. Hockey's changed. Figure skating's changed. And what they need, you have girls playing on boys' teams and so on. So it takes a little more. We also analyzed the site. We looked at sidewalks and the stoops and the needs for repair there. Not uncommon with a facility at this age. Insufficient parking during peak hours. I think because it's in a nice park setting and you have the walking trails, you have the fishing piers, you have all those things. So people are doing those, plus you have a big ice event going on. It tends to overwhelm the site a little bit. There's some issues with the main water line, some dripping and some repairs there, and then some grading issues at the backside of the building that cause water to kind of push right into the side of it. Structural, visual inspections, actually had a lift, 32-foot lift out there. Structural engineer spent about 8 hours up in that roof structure. We noticed there's a high moisture content in the wood structure. You'd kind of expect that in this type of facility, given that it was a seasonal rink, meaning open air on the sides, bermed up over the years. The walls got built around it. Then the season gets extended, right? Started out as 3 months of ice, then it's 6, and then it's 9. See it all over. They did some sound hammer testing where they can get an idea of if there's rot or decay. Notice a lot of rust on the sprinkler systems and the bolted connections through splits and cracks that start to happen in timber structures. And then ultimately, it's how does that roof structure work with today's building codes? So there's a need for additional support. Mechanical, it's a very good dehumidification system in there. The problem is it's at the end of its useful life. They just don't make it anymore. They don't support the parts for it. So, there's other companies that make, newer systems. That system that was in there, you're getting a lot out of it, and that's good. Locker rooms have poor ventilation. We talk about having fresh air coming in at 100% fresh air so that you're keeping the odors out, you're keeping the air clean, all those things, and it's lacking on that. There's some gas furnaces that are residential type in the front end area. Plumbing's in good condition, occasional leaks, and everything else is just at the end of its useful life. Oh, hit the wrong one. I'll get there. Electrical, I think it's just at that phase where there's really been a lot of great lighting innovation in the last, especially 10 years, quite frankly. I've been in this industry for 35 plus, and the building's right for those types of improvements. You have some metal halide fixtures that light the rink. They put out a lot of heat, so that adds extra tonnage to your ice system. Has to work a little harder. Wireless alarm system needs some improvements, and data, like all buildings of this age, you kind of just retrofit it, and it needs a little help on that. Lighting controls, you could upgrade quite a few of those just from an energy saving standpoint and building use. Ice. There's an R22 system in here. They no longer sell R22. If you have an existing system, you can buy it still on the used side. It's very expensive. We're switching them out all across the country. It's part of the Montreal Protocol. If you looked at the report, it went into a lot of detail on that, and it's just going by the wayside. Snowmelt Pit, it's great to have. I always talk about ice arena design. You want to build a better refrigerator, and that's what we're always trying to do. And the Snowmelt Pit allows you to Zamboni the ice and then dump it in a pit. But there's better ways of doing it. Right now, you're using a hot water system. You have to, basically a boiler to heat up water. Nowadays, we'll take the waste heat off the refrigeration system and do that same thing. The ice floor has some cracks and varies. We know there's some unknown soils underneath the ice because we're seeing some tilt. There's some bad areas by the locker rooms that, need to be addressed is probably frost buildup underneath, because the rink slab was put in with the idea of 3-4 months of ice a year. Now it's running a lot longer. We see that all the time. So very common. And then it lacks just some life safety elements for the refrigeration system. We just do them differently now. There's more bells and whistles as far as checks and balances for safety. So at the end, we put together a cost estimate. And we did this in a phased approach. I'll hit that in a little bit. But you add it all up, we're at a construction estimate total with a hot market premium. That's the reality of the world we live in right now. I'm working on a couple new ice arenas right now. We order steel tomorrow. I can't get it for 12 months. Okay, so there's an issue there, right, with just inflation and supply chain issues. So we thought we had to put a hot market premium on this. We did use Farella Group, their local cost estimating group. Good team, great team. They really dove in and worked hard on this. And then you see we go from 23.4 million to 27.4. The rest of that is some contingencies, AE fees, soft costs, those types of things to get to a total project cost. I think a lot of times people will just throw out a number for construction, they forget about all the rest. And it ends up being a big number. With that, these are the things we did, and it's pretty much what I ran through already, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. Phasing, this was critical. Minnesota, we have, whatever it is now, 360 ice rinks. So if a rink goes under construction, we can usually find ice for people in neighboring areas. Here, there's just not a lot of excess ice. So we looked at this as a phased approach to implementing improvements. And the idea is to build that over the 3-4 months of the downtime in the summer. So it would take, pre-planning, pre-ordering, those types of things. But we looked at working with a local Twin Cities contractor I work with a lot out of Minneapolis, who built probably 20, 25 ice arenas. I worked with them, Farella Group, and I think we came up with a nice phasing plan here of, the first 4 months of construction, that orangey salmon color on the left, you could kind of hit the main lobby and then replace or add those additional trusses in the west side. Phase 2, you would hit it on the right side or east side of the building. And then phase 3 at the end would be the refrigeration replacement. And we picked that one at the end because when you're doing the trusses, you're putting in all that stuff, there's a good chance you're going to have heavy equipment on there. So you don't want to spend $1 million on a concrete floor, right, with piping in it and all that, just to damage it. So let's do that at the end and bring the whole system together. So with this, I do a lot of these. And you start looking at that number, so I just said, something it wasn't really part of our report, but I put it in there. Renovate or build new. And I look at the costs of renovation, which are high because we're basically picking this thing apart piece by piece and then putting it back together piece by piece, whereas this is an example just outside of Duluth, Minnesota. I added inflation to it to get to 2021. This building opened in 2018, so it's not that old. And they had 1,200 seats in it. It's Minnesota. The town has a population of 2,100 people. There's 1,200 seats in their ice arena. So I deducted that 1.2. I added, I'm calling it East Coast cost factor because people say buildings cost more here, plus talking with Farella, and we kind of traded data back and forth and came up with that factor. So estimated cost, 11.6, $12 million. That's construction cost of the building. I'm not going to say it's going to be that. I'm going to say that's your basic ice arena, built well. What's going to throw that number around are the soft costs and land costs. And what I mean by that is infrastructure you have to bring in. Do we have bad soils? You're in a community where you probably have some limited access to sites that can handle this. So, you'd have to look at all that. But still, even if you say that 12 million's low, I'll tell you, we just did the Anaheim Ducks, that was $300 a square foot. So $300 a square foot, even at a 45,000 to 50,000 square foot arena, you're still in that 15 million range. Benefits of that were just energy efficiency, because you'd have some better insulation on walls and everything would come together. We're not trying to hold this 50-year-old structure together. And that ultimately helps in operations and programming flexibility because we can correct some of those ills on locker rooms, meeting rooms, tournament rooms, and so on. With that, I'll open up for questions. So I tried to take that 67 pages or so and...
All right, first and foremost, thank you for your presentation this evening. And at this time, I will open it up to questions from the council.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I got a...
Councilmember.
Thank you, sir.
Steph?
It was 83 pages.
Oh, 83,
and,
okay.
and we appreciated all of them. It was good information. First of all, I just want to say a huge thank you to city personnel, especially Ice Arena city personnel, for all the work you do at that facility. Under anyone else's leadership, that thing would have fallen apart years ago. You guys work incredibly hard every day. You have maintained incredibly strong relationships with all of the users. You have been really, 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 really good about finding every creative tool in the toolbox to keep that building going. Well, after experts told us we wouldn't be able to keep it going, and I really, really appreciate that. That is an ethic we seem to have across departments in Bowie, whether it's public works or community services. We managed to keep equipment and facilities running for much, much, much longer than people would expect because of that diligence, and so I really, really appreciate that. This is a question for a combination of city staff and for our presenter this evening. In your overall estimation, how long do you think the existing facility can last structurally?
Structurally?
When does someone come along and lock the doors and tell us we can't use it anymore?
It's hard to say. You'd almost have to do more testing. I would say, there's no imminent danger to it. The issue is once you upgrade with insulation and so on, then we can no longer make that system work. Because once you have the insulation on there, then the snow that comes down, right now the benefit is, because you have no insulation, it melts the snow, right? So it takes that loading off. We are waiting, structural engineers waiting from the county, because we're trying to, we surmised what the loading requirements were in 1971. But we want confirmation of it. And we talked to the city referred us to the county, and now we're working with the county to get that. But, this engineer's been around a long time, he's pretty close. So those requirements have changed over time. So the other thing, this is a redundant structure, which means it has multiple trusses, all these wood members. So if there's ever gonna be a failure, you're gonna notice it. It's not just gonna be like catastrophic, boom, it dropped. You'll see some bending of beams and so on. So, it's something that you gotta pay attention to. Maybe every year or two, you have someone go up there and just check connections and check areas.
Okay. So in your professional opinion, and city staff, if you have any follow-up thoughts on this or different thoughts on this, please chime in. If we were to go with the refurbishment route, the total for which is, I think, 28 million, which you quoted. If we were to just stick with the absolute bare necessity essentials, would we be still looking at all those improvements, or would we be looking at a fraction of those improvements?
I think you're looking at most of them.
Yeah, okay.
Because once you get into a project like this, the codes kick in. And if you notice, there's nothing in the report that really talked about major, no additions or anything, some renovations in the locker room areas, but most of it's just getting everything up to speed, replacing water heaters, furnaces, some paint on the walls, structure is a big thing, refrigeration plant, obviously. It's 50 years old. That's awesome. Most of these systems that were built to that era last 30, 35, and so it's performed quite well. And that is credit, like you mentioned, to the staff, because it's a clean facility, and they're keeping it together.
Now, you mentioned the 12-month waiting period on steel. This, I guess, would be more for city staff, but I'm sure you have thoughts on this as well. If we were to begin all the refurbishment projects as outlined in this plan today, how long would we be looking until for this whole thing to be complete?
Want me to answer it?
Well, best
they're going to look
guesstimate
at me and
terms.
say, how long will it take for design and approvals, right? So I'll just freewheel it here. So typically, depending on, council approvals, going through that process, meeting with staff, so on and so forth, the design phase would be in that 5 to 8 month range, depending, I just don't know enough about how you operate and your approval process. So that'd be 5 to 8 months, and then it would just be truly the 3 summers to execute the work. So I would look at it and say, if you're gonna do something, you'd start sooner than later so we could get stuff ready for yet this year, because you gotta hit that summer season, right, for construction.
So we'd be looking at about 3.5 years total is what you're saying?
3.5 on best case scenario.
Staff, do you agree with that assessment broadly?
Yes, we defer to the engineer and architect on that one, sir.
Fair enough. Okay. So 3.5 years to do all the refurbishments. If we were to proceed with the construction of a new single-sheet ice rink at the quoted 11.5 to 12 million, understanding that that could shift.
That's construction cost.
Based on circumstances.
Yep.
This is probably more for staff since you guys are a little bit more familiar with the history here. But, if we were looking at locations for that, there's a few in my mind that are obvious. Church Road would be one, for obvious reasons. Glen Allen Park is another that others have brought up and that we've looked at before. And obviously the existing space would be another option, either on top of the existing rink, which would have downtime for however long it took to build it, or possibly somewhere else at Allen Pond Park. Does staff have any early thoughts on any of those locations if we were to go in that route?
There were thoughts about the property in the vicinity of the golf course. There is Allen Pond Park and Glen Allen Park. But of course, any site that we look at, other than Church Road, we'd have to analyze thoroughly to avoid what happened with Church Road. Because when we looked at Church Road 4.5 years ago, when we started, it had not been analyzed for its issues, such as stormwater issues, utility issues, and that was very costly to us as we moved forward. And so if we, any site, that's at least in a month and a half of a geological analysis of the suitability of that particular ground.
So if we were to look at a location other than Church Road, we're talking about a month and a half to make sure that the alternative location would be feasible.
Yes, and I'd say once we hired a professional to take a look at the property.
And how long do you think that would take from our giving direction to putting out an RFP to getting that person hired to having the analysis done roughly?
4 to 5 months to get that done.
Okay.
Excuse me, Councilmember Estev, can I just ask a question based on what you just asked?
Please.
Sure.
Sure.
When the vote was taken last May to cancel the ice rink, wasn't it proposed within that motion that we would use the Church Road property for basketball courts?
I believe there was, that would be the next course of action for use of that property, yes.
Thank you.
For a complex, that was discussed, right.
Hmm. And that's not something that we can change our mind on at this point?
Well, you all can,
I'm seeing a lot of nodding, so I'm going to assume that we can change our minds. Fair enough. All right. If we were to proceed with construction of a single sheet rink at the current location, so on top of the existing ice arena, knowing that we'd have to close it down, demolish the building, and start over with a new one, do we have a general sense of what the total construction time would be? And I guess that's more for the professional.
Yeah, I can take that one on.
Okay.
I would say you're probably in a year of design and procurement and another year of construction.
So 2 years total?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where you'd want to have everything set to go. So the day you close it, you're taking the building down and you have the stuff there ready to put it back up. So I think that's going to take, some...
Well, I need to chime in here about one thing, not to interfere.
Yeah, please go ahead.
But one of the problems that we had, or the situation we had with the last ice rink, was it took us 6 months to get through DPI. So whatever planning that we make, it would be like, we would be overlooking history if we did plan for at least 3 to 4 months of permitting through DPI. That's just the way that is.
So 2 years plus 6 months for DPI. Okay. I only have two more. This is for staff. And I apologize, this has probably been answered before, and I've just forgotten what the answer is. But when we had all that additional construction material from the past project, I know there was some steel, there were some other things. What did we end up doing with that leftover construction material? Do we still own that steel, or what's going on with that?
The steel is currently sitting on site. We did have some other piping and other things that got delivered to the Public Works yard. They have been utilizing that in some of the other applications that they have for their needs. We managed to cancel a lot of the materials purchases, so we don't have a significant amount of materials supplies, but I don't think that's a significant factor in regards to our next steps.
So we do have some leftover materials, but it's not much to speak of at this point.
I don't think you should be making a decision by our leftover materials.
Fair enough. That's helpful. Are there any other, this is for staff as well, I apologize, are there any other cost savings that we might be able to achieve moving forward based on work that's already been done, previous studies, previous plans, previous designs? Is there anything at all where we could help ourselves a little bit from the previous efforts that have been put in?
Are you referring to using the Church Road site then?
I guess that's partly an answer to the question, I suppose, then. Yeah, it would have to be for the Church Road location, wouldn't it? Well, if that's the case, what would the advantages be in that scenario?
I mean, the only way I think we could benefit from that if we would continue to build the same thing at the site. Currently, otherwise, we may not, a smaller rink would, it just wouldn't fit. But it's just hard to say. We don't have that much left over, though. Right.
Okay, that's fair enough. That's all that I have. I appreciate it. And thank you so much for your presentation tonight and for your work on this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions at this time? Councilman Wolford?
Yep. First of all, thank you so very much for coming in, but most importantly, thank you for the extra mile you went in terms of the extra step and coming through with some legitimate cost estimates for our deliberative process here. I mean, it's great to know what a facility will actually cost. It's clear to me that it makes no sense to repair the existing building. I think it's clear we need to replace it. And it's unfortunate. It's been a great asset over the years. My wife grew up here, and she was actually used to, when they were kids, they'd go skate on the pond, and then we ended up with an ice rink, and then we had it covered and enclosed. My kids have skated there. I've tried and embarrassed myself and my kids, more importantly, by skating around a couple times too. And it's truly a great asset for the community. So I think it's clear we need to move that forward in replacing this. The couple of questions, I just want to go back to the issue of timing, because it sounded to me, I want to make sure I understand it correctly, that there would be some lead up if we have several locations we can choose from, of which one is the existing facility's location.
Right.
But it has some clear disadvantages, which is I gotta time everything to have everything ready to go. Mm-hmm. And then once everything's done, whether it's DPI and everything else and something like that, your thought is it takes about 1 year once we've got all of that done?
I'd have to understand your approval processes.
No, assuming it's all approved.
Yep.
And all the front work is done, we've given the blessings, everything is set, all the approvals for the construction permits and all that is done.
Yep.
And to that point where you're making, it's like you now have to go shut the door. Once you've shut the door on the old facility,
mm-hmm.
1 year for the new one?
Yes.
Okay.
It tends to work very well. It typically ends up around 10, 11 months, but then we like to have that extra month for commissioning of the building, building the ice sheet up, doing all that, getting everything worked out, because once the doors open, the building needs to hum.
Yeah.
Because they're such high-use facilities.
Yeah, so that becomes a real disadvantage if I'm without a facility for a year in the existing local environment, which is, I don't have a lot of spare ice floating around.
That's how I look at it,
Yeah, yeah.
as an
Okay.
outside consultant and doing a lot of these and, knowing the amount of ice you have available around here.
Mhm.
I think that gets
All right.
challenging.
So then at that point, that puts us back to a separate facilities, and we just had an earlier discussion, a separate location. And I think it might make sense to pursue one of those, and certainly there are options that we have available.
Yeah, and that's where I definitely agree with the city manager. I think, we do it all the time. We're in a community, they may have 3, 4, 5 sites.
Mhm.
And it really, to spend that planning time up front and just a quick site fit plan, what can you fit on it? And then from there, if we think, hey, a couple of these are rising to the top, then it's worth spending some dollars to understand the geotechnical, utility infrastructure, stormwater, and then see if one of them works out better than the other. I think it's just being prudent with taxpayer money and kind of going through that process. And it's something we do quite a bit for facilities, because once you commit to one, this one has been around 50 years. They're around for a long time. I like to say the buildings I'm doing now are 75 years.
Excellent, very good. All right, well, thank you very much. I do greatly appreciate it. Your work is a great help to us as we're moving forward. And as I said, I think it makes a lot of sense knowing what we know now.
Okay.
To me, it's pretty clear what the path forward should be. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
I do want to say thank you again for coming in. I think there's just a comment I want to make at this point to make sure everybody understands, is that I don't believe there is a single member of this city council who is not supporting ICE. So I think sometimes people are getting that misnomer out there that the city council doesn't want to see ICE or doesn't want to support our kids with ICE. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that I can't think of a single member of this city council, and if I'm wrong, they can feel free to speak up and say that, who don't support ICE and our kids having ICE. So I don't want anybody to get that impression from anything or any questions that may be asked. But what I think some people have made some real good recommendations, and we were just talking about what might work and what we might need to do. And so I think it's one of those things where, well, I won't do any closing. I'll just open if anybody else have any other questions. Go ahead.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Very thorough and answered questions for me, but not that I had any questions, because I kind of knew the number would be pretty high to replace the ice rink. My questions really are for city staff. I just want to find out, in regards to permits, do you remember how much it cost for the permits, or just kind of a ballpark number, when we were working with the 2-sheet ice rink or the ice arena?
I don't have that number offhand.
Do you remember how long the process was about?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So if you could just kind of share that with us, that'd be great.
I think the permitting process probably cost us $400,000 for one permit or another as an estimate. But in October of 19 is when we were halted, and I'm not being dramatic, by DPI.
Right.
Because we had been through the whole process, and we made a mistake, and we didn't look at the site until we were already in the process, and we found some extra costs there. But between October, it took us through March to get to the point where we were about to issue the notice to proceed, which is what he would need to go start building things. And actually, we had to pay some contract extension costs to the contractor, Costello, because we had to stop them, and they had mobilized people. And I had at least 3 meetings with everybody who was somebody in the county and with DPI, and it's just really hard. But we got through it.
Right.
I know how my dad felt at the Battle of the Bulge. We got through it. But when it went, but once we did, and then a couple of months later, it was shut down.
That time frame of us being halted to where we had to pause our construction process in October, we had already, our construction team had already been working, and our design team had already been working on securing permits since the beginning of 2019. So that carried through all of 2019 into the beginning of 2020 before we got finally all of the permits in process. So it was in excess of a year to get through the permitting process with Prince George's County. We'd like to say that that experience could potentially improve circumstances. I don't know many people that can construct that would have that level of confidence, though.
Also, that we had to work with the Corps of Engineers because of proximity to the waterways and the stormwater issues. So, but we got through.
And so you could say that that process would be similar to what we probably would have to go through in this new project we're talking about.
DPI, they're still DPI.
And you mentioned a cost of $400,000, you said about?
That's what I recall.
Does that include salary, your time?
Verify that.
I'm just asking.
I'll verify, we'll look at the records to see what the number is, but that's the all the permits, that's the number that sticks in my brain right now.
Right. And so in your $28 million assessment, that cost was certainly not included in that, correct?
Oh, we put dollar amounts in.
How much? I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me.
Up here, but.
Because I know you were questioning earlier about
We just put that down in the owner cost, that part that brings it from 23.4 to 27.4. It was in that number.
Oh, that's what you're including as a soft cost?
Yep, that's where we put our soft costs.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And as far as timing, I know you were questioning that as well. So it could be a year or more.
Yeah, and it's really dependent. You know, you have some history here with Prince George and their process. There's some areas that, you know, can take 3 months and some areas that take a year and a half. It all depends on where we're working and what their process is.
Right.
And that's, you know, always what we try to do is get in front of them right away to figure out that timeline. So.
Yes. Thank you. Appreciate the positivity on that. Thank you. That's all I had.
I think, Councilman Gardner, you had some questions.
Yes, I do, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have a couple of questions, and I think you want to start by saying thank you for coming out this evening and to our home and presenting this to the Bowie ICE community as well as the residents at large. I do have a couple of questions, and most of my questions are pretty much geared towards staff. I know some of these answers, but I'm asking questions for the viewing public because many of them have asked these questions of me, and I want to, if I can get staff on record for providing these answers. The questions that I wanted to ask to start off with is, if you can tell me, who was the previous contractor that was selected for the previous project on Church Road for ICE?
Costello.
Right. Okay, and the question too is that we have, the monies were borrowed from, to provide the construction of the 2 sheets of ice, Correct, okay. And those monies were received by the city of Bowie under the previous council.
Well, in 2019, just before the new people were elected,
the new
Byron and I went to New York and we made our pitch, and soon after we got the $24 million.
Okay, so those dollars were received in the year 2019?
Right.
Okay. Then so there are monies remaining in our city account?
Yes.
Okay. Now, the gentleman here tonight asked about, well, he mentioned that building 1 sheet of ice would cost us roughly $11 million. And we do own the site on Church Road as well. Okay, my concern is, okay, I'm going to speak for myself. I've been going back this with ICE for quite some time, and I'm sure our residents here in the city of Bowie, the ICE community is, they're all rather tired of the back and forth. They're just, just too much. They're exhausted. I'm exhausted for them. And I sit up here and I'm not living on the ice, so I understand how you would feel. Definitely. I want to see that we come to some sort of decision, and rather good or bad, indifferent, just come to something and stick with it. Another question of staff. I know we had spoke on the time frame. Councilmember at staff asked how much time it would cost of us to build a newer facility or to build a brand new facility from the ground up, and permitting and all of these things could take place. It could be 3 to 5 years. So we have a facility right now that is functioning by the grace of God. And if this facility were to fail, then we won't have ICE and Bowie. And I don't want to see a 50-plus year tradition of that is a lifestyle, that is which is rooted in the grain of the Bowie community to be ripped away. So I know that we can come up with something to, one, continue sports in Bowie, because we've not provided anything. We haven't provided ice, nor have we provided courts. And I'm getting, I shared with my colleague here, Councilwoman Harrison, I'm getting text messages also asking about basketball courts. And, and I do mean disrespectfully to my colleagues, we've not provided courts, ice, and we've stressed out both communities. We have this money that we've borrowed that we're paying for. I mean, we are servicing that debt. I would imagine that we are, correct? So
that's correct.
Okay, so we're paying monies on something that we don't have, or the residents are paying for something that they don't have. So as the mayor mentioned, it is the desire of this council to provide ice courts, to provide recreation to our citizens here in the city of Bowie. We just have to do it now. We have to make a decision. We have to stick to something and give to our residents. A question, I do want to ask another question of staff, because the gentleman here said in order to build one sheet of ice is $11 million. It's going to take 3.5 years. And question of staff, when was the 2 sheets of ice scheduled to open?
I believe it was scheduled to be completed 1st of September.
Of 2021?
Yeah, right about
So
now.
we would be opening the ice arena now?
Yeah.
And then you're saying the monies that we would be paying, that we're currently paying for debt service, would be basically paying for the ice arena?
Yeah, we would have paid Costello that cost and over time, yes.
Is there any way, I'm just going to ask this question because I'm being asked, and I don't know. Is there any way that we could re-engage Costello to picking up where they left off at that site and completing that project? I know Councilmember at staff mentioned about the steel and other items he was questioning that have been delivered. I would assume that steel and those items were fitted to fit a 2-sheet arena, or the design of a 2-sheet arena, so those things have no value or no use at any given time.
They were shaped for the construction at Church Road as it was designed, but so we don't have a use for them in their current configuration unless it's just by luck.
Okay. I know, as the gentleman mentioned today too, that we will be looking at some hard costs that are involved because of the pandemic and the supply chain, and just that would drive up the cost of this.
Inflation.
Yes, and inflation. we have to come up with some sort of suggestion, not suggestion, we have to come up with some solution immediately to service courts and ICE and making this work, because right now it looks as though we're going to be without providing ICE. And if we're not going to provide ICE, then maybe we might want to get out of the entire business of recreation completely. Maybe let's just say the city of Bowie no longer provides courts, volleyball, soccer, baseball, softball, ICE, and we just get out of the sport business altogether. Because if we're not going to provide services, then we need to determine what we're going to do. Personally speaking, and I know the council from having conversations with my colleagues, and as the mayor just said, we want to provide these services. So if we want to provide these services, we have to come to some conclusion. If we're going to refurbish this existing ice arena, which I would not support, because that's $28 million. I would never support spending any more money than we have to for the residents' money. Secondly, I'm being overwhelmed by a number of residents that are just angry on both sides, whether they were pro-ICE or pro-courts or neither. They're just upset with the length of time this has taken and the waste of their money and city resources. Because we may have, just very emotional about this, and everyone in the room knows where I stand with ICE. Everyone knows where I stand with our residents and our tax dollars. I never supported any increase of tax dollars, and I never would. My reluctancy at first for not supporting ICE was because I was concerned about the rise in the cost that it would cover it. But when it was explained to me and how I saw it and looked at the matrix to how 2 sheets of ice could cover itself completely. And ICE, we all know that ICE generates more revenue than any other sport in the city of Bowie. And it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. I want to show my support for all recreation, courts and ICE. We have to come with some determination what we're going to do, and we need to do this as soon as possible. I'm going to end my statement. I got my questions out that residents at home asked me to ask on their behalf, so I hope that you were able to get the answers. But I'm going to ask, and go a step further, I'm going to ask my colleagues on the council, if we do not come to some sort of understanding tonight that because they've called for multiple special meetings in the past on different subject matters, I'm going to ask that we go into a special meeting, or we plan a special meeting just to settle this item for once and for all. I think council members at Stev and Dufour and myself have been dealing with this longer than everyone up here, and definitely staff. I'm not wanting to mitigate anything that you guys have done. And I thank you, staff, for your patience in all of this. But it's just overwhelming. It's just too much. I like us to move on to some other items and just put this to rest. So I'm going to ask the mayor and my colleagues and those of my colleagues that are at home, virtually, I'm sorry, not home, but virtually, if we can come together, have a special meeting, and settle this ICE and courts for once and for all and be done, and then giving that information to the public or having an open, we need to just settle this. It's been going on too long, and I don't want any more 5 a.m. meetings either.
Thank you.
Okay? Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Councilman Harrison.
I just have one comment, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for indulging me, and thank you, Councilmember Gardner, for your comments. City staff, just a quick question. If I remember correctly, when this whole court and ICE topic was brought up, I know we talked at one point about using the land to support both. Is that something that we could consider? Just a question. I know and what came of that particular proposal?
This is the Church Road site you're talking about?
Correct.
As Mr. Lott had mentioned, the initial plan was to be constructing a facility that would address both ice and court needs at the Church Road site. And there was a initial proposal to have one sheet of ice and to have basketball courts of comparable square footage on the other side. The decision was made to not continue with that. There was also discussion in regards to looking at an expanded facility that would be phased to have 2 sheets of ice and even more basketball associated with it. However, that was looked at prior to the geological testing of the land, and there were basically hydrology issues in regards to the wetland issues on the property that limited the ability for that square footage to be expanded. There is space to have a multi-use concept on Church Road. It is much more limited if you were looking at having 2 sheets of ice and basketball. That was never evaluated, but
Right.
Facility comparable in size to the 2-sheet ice arena would be able to be accommodated on that site.
So you're saying we could accommodate a multi-use facility on the site?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any of our council members, any other questions, those virtual? If not, and I want to thank you again for your presentation. I'd like to thank the council for, what did you say?
I believe Mayor Pro Tem was just on.
Oh, okay.
Thanks. I appreciate that. No other comments besides the fact that I agree with, I did not realize my camera wasn't on, that I agree with Councilman Gardner in his remarks. I do think that this council needs to set a special meeting date this month, not next month, but sometime this month, and make a decision once and for all, and move forward in that manner, right? As everyone knows, we have a lot of pressing issues, and communities have been waiting a long time. Again, sorry that my camera, I think I'm turning it on, but some of our communities have been waiting a long time for this. So I'd like to propose any date in September, really, at this point, and for us to have conversations offline with staff and with other folks that we need to have those conversations with, but be prepared to come back to chambers this month to make an immediate decision on this.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Ndamadu?
Thank you so much. No questions at this time. I just want to echo some of the sentiments that Councilmember Gardner is kind of stated earlier, as well as Mayor Pro Tem Boafo echoed, and definitely just want to reemphasize that I don't think there's a single member on the city council that's not committed to ICE or providing ICE in the city of Bowie. And so I definitely agree and urge my colleagues for us to set that special date sooner rather than later. And I'm pretty sure that all of us will make ourselves available to make sure that we can reach that decision. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And just for everyone's knowledge, we have talked about it even up here, that's what we're looking to do. As soon as we can, to meet, to talk about it, to come up with solutions for it. The one thing that I have to correct for people to understand, when we talk about the cost of the ice arena, without going too much into the weeds, is that people need to understand that when we talk about the ice arena generating revenue, it is not revenue to cover the construction or the finance charges. It's to cover the operating. Yeah, you are aware of that? Yeah, we did know that. Oh, okay, because I heard somebody said that they thought that it would cover the cost of the rent. Okay, I just want to make sure that everybody understood that. And so having doing that, I think we've moved to the point of now we will thank everyone and we will move on to the next agenda item.
Mr. Mayor, just a quick question. What date are we looking at for the special meeting? I think we should probably come up with...
I think we need to get with staff, see what everybody's availability is.
Right.
I've already actually talked to staff about putting it even on the agenda for here. At this point, I think it'd just be fair for us to to check everybody's calendar without just picking an
Sure.
arbitrary date.
No, I
We'll do that
agree.
as soon as we can, hopefully within the next several weeks.
Well, is there a reason why we can't put it on for the 20th of September?
Yeah.
Excuse me?
That's my position.
Well, just talking about scheduling, we do have a meeting scheduled for the September the 20th. We could put this on the agenda and move other things around. And so there would be no need for a
I talked
special
to
meeting.
the assistant city manager about putting it on then already. And I just
Well, I'm
want to
just
make
talking to
sure-
everybody, Mr. Mayor.
Huh?
I'm just talking to the group about it. Okay.
No, I'm saying we're looking at trying to do it, and we just wanted to see what worked for the agenda of what items were on there. And I think that's something that I figured we would talk with city staff and with everybody about. So I'm good with that. It's just I'm not trying to throw an arbitrary date. But I think that if that looks like a good date that we could do that, that gives us an opportunity. Mayor Pro Tem, did you have a comment?
Yeah, no, I just would like us to get a hard commitment right now that we do add the September 20th date, this to the agenda for the September 20th date, just so folks at home know that this will be decided soon and will be decided, as I said, in September on the 20th.
So it was to be put, so we'll put that as an agenda item for September 20th.
Quick question, Mayor Pro Tem, could you just outline exactly what you see happening in between now and September 20th? And what we're asking staff to do?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a couple of things. I think first things first, each member should do their due diligence with staff and other folks. I know I have a trillion questions, and I'm not going to keep everybody here until 5 a.m. asking a billion questions, right? But I do think every member between now and then, obviously talking among ourselves, but also talking to staff and to other folks who were involved to figure out what we believe is the best decision moving forward. I don't think this is any different than any other issue that we normally tackle.
Thank you.
And Al, if you need that in like full motion form, please let me know. Or if you have consensus over there, again, I'm not there, but if you have consensus over there, I think that's great as well.
What we'd like to do is, city manager, put it on for there, and if need be, I will call a special meeting between now and then if we feel we need to discuss it even further.
Well,
thank you.
Well, but I need to talk to, I just to get some clarity about what our assignment's going to be between now and the 20th. All right. So what we're going to do is get all the data that was accumulated and put it into one packet, and we're going to write a memo, which what we used to call in Army a decision memo for the council, and we're going to put down the options that we know exist. One would be to renovate. The other would be to get direction to go toward a single sheet up situation. One would be to take no action, and one would be to look at it, and then we'd have to identify the sites. So that's the sort of thing that we would be planning to do.
Yeah, but city manager, we would probably need, and that's why I wanted to have an extension. I think we also want to make sure we take a look at what it would take to have one sheet of ice and porch.
Well, that can be one of the options too. Well, we'll lay that out for you also.
That's what I'm saying. That's one of the options. So that's what we wanted to clarify.
Well, good. Well, we know that information too.
Okay, good.
We have an idea what some costs.
Well, we look forward to getting that and then having an opportunity to discuss.
So I'm so sorry. I just wanted to clarify what exactly is our direction to staff for the 20th. I've lost track.
What is your question?
Oh, can someone just reiterate what exactly our direction to staff is for the 20th? Yeah. I feel like something got lost for me.
Staff, I think, did a good job of summarizing it just now and saying that they're going to take a look at the different options we talked about this evening, write up a memo with recommendations on what those things are, what they cost, and give us some idea with that, and then give us an opportunity to make a decision on how we'd like to move forward. Is that summarize it, city manager?
And we'll tell you what the condition, what our financial situation is.
Gotcha.
With the $24 million that we borrow, and in specificity. So just so you'll know how much money we're working with.
I didn't follow the.
So you
24 million.
so you all will know how much money is available from
Okay.
the money that we borrow.
Okay.
Pardon me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a question for staff. City Manager, question for you. You referenced the $24 million. Of that $24 million, what is remaining?
It's an accounting issue, but here it is. When we shut down the ice rink project last year, there was $18.5 million still available. And if you remember the budgeting process from last year, there was, you all voted to take some of that money and move it to the CIP for this current fiscal year. That was somewhere between $6 and $7 million. So right now, there's approximately $11 million of the $24 million left.
Oh, jeez.
Thank you. And we'll now-
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, I had a question to
okay,
that. And we are servicing the debt on that entire $24 million?
Yes.
Roughly, what is that monthly payment?
Is it 700? I'd have to check the budget book on that one, but it's probably $500,000 to $700,000 a year, but let me verify that, all right?
Yeah, and it's in the budget because it's listed by year. All right.
Okay, thank you, City Manager.
Is there
Thank
anything
you.
else?
No,
Councilman?
Mr. Mayor, I don't have any other
Anything-
questions.
Anybody else? If not, thank you, everyone, and we will now move on to the next item, which was moved.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move to adjournment and move to closed session. To adjourn the closed session under the statutory authority of the Maryland Annotated Code.
Hold on. Adrian, Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
We had the item
ahead.
that was moved regarding the.
That got moved to next meeting.
To the
Mr.
next
Mayor, was
meeting?
moved to the
Okay.
September 20th.
Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
All right, I'll try this again. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move to adjournment and move to closed session. To adjourn to closed session under the statutory authority of the Maryland Annotated Code, State Government, subsection 3-305B7, to consult with counsel to obtain legal advice, and subsection 3-305B14, before a contract is awarded or bids are open, to discuss a matter directly related to a negotiation strategy or the contents of a bid or proposal, if public discussion or disclosure would adversely impact the ability of the public body to participate in the competitive bidding or proposal process.
Second. It's been moved and properly second. All in favor? Respond with an aye. Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, everyone. And to all of those out in the city, I want to thank staff for all their support, those who showed this evening, but also those citizens who have been following us online. Again, thank you, and everyone, please stay safe. Good night.